Well, welcome to your journey. I'm your host, Chuck Lewis, and we got a special guest with us today, Morris Ellington, a.k.a. Mo E. What's going on, man?
Chuck Lou, what's going on, man? Just living life, man. That's it. That's all we can do.
That's it, man. Obviously, we're in this transition with COVID-19, trying to adjust to this new normal. How are you and your family doing with that?
Yeah, man. We making it work, man. It's actually, it's been some months now, so we kind of used to it. It started off challenging, trying to figure everything out. Kids out of daycare, got a 5 and a 3-year-old, so trying to get them to kind of understand what's going on was kind of difficult, but we worked through it, and we're still working through it somewhat, I guess, most days. But it's better, a lot better, because I guess as a parent, you got to do what you have to do, man. And the kids are adjusting. So I got to tell you one thing: I can't wait till school is back in, because it's gonna be real, man. To get that little piece, man. So yeah, man, we making it though.
Nah, that's good. I'm going through the same thing. Me being a family man as well, trying to adjust to how things are with the kids being at the house every day, and still trying to make sure that you're getting work done for your normal job. But with raising kids, that's a job with double overtime. So just
Right,
trying
right.
to manage that whole thing is a challenge in itself. And so I guess my next question is just as far as COVID-19, will we ever get back to normal, or is there going to be a new normal?
Oh man, it's definitely gonna have to be a new normal, man. Because I can't even imagine, man. You going to work and you in there with people, and somebody get a cold or something, somebody sneeze, boy. It ain't gonna you ain't gonna look at it the same anymore, man. Because first thing you're gonna think of is, boy, man, what do they got?
Yeah.
What do they have, and why are they still here at work? And am I gonna get it? So yeah, it's gonna be different, man. I think probably a lot of the jobs now are probably seeing that a lot of people can probably work from home
Mhm.
and making it work. So I won't be surprised as a lot of people have that opportunity and chance to start working from home now. So
Yeah,
so
well,
yeah, it's
thank God.
definitely gonna have to change.
Yeah, well, thank God for technology and for us to be able to
Yeah.
utilize it to the best and to its fullest right now, because that's the only way we get things done right now is just using technology, whether it's Zoom or
Right.
Google Meet. Those are the things that we got to try to utilize. Well, let's get right into it, man. So you're
Yeah.
from Orlando, Florida. Talk to me about what it was like growing up as a kid in Florida.
Oh man, I grew up on kind of like the west side of Florida. So everybody think I'm from Orlando. So everybody think of Disney World and vacation this and vacation that. But behind those curtains of Disney World, I guess on my side of town, it wasn't so pretty. But as a kid, you grew up, that's all you knew. And yeah, we had Disney there. But it was a lot different. But it was fun, man. Year round, the weather was pretty decent. You have your different seasons, but you have a hurricane season. So I lived through several hurricanes growing up. Scary, but thank God we made it out safe. Nobody that I knew in my family or even friends, man, were hurt. So that was one of the things that I could say that was good. But growing up in Florida, man, it was fun, man. There's always something to do. Now I'm here in Ohio, man. It's you got those 2 months where you just two, maybe three, sometimes four, where you can't do anything. You kind of like caged up, man, in a house. And I just remember Christmas, man, in December. We can go outside, man. You get a remote control car or something like that, and you go outside and play with it that day. Here, you got to put it up until another month or two, before you can even think about playing it. So I just remember those days, man. That was just all fun. Um, but yeah, Florida was good, man.
Well, no, that's good. So you've been an athlete your whole life. At what age did you start playing sports?
You know what? So, like I said, Florida, the weather and all that, man. We kind of grew up playing like a lot of sandlot type things, man. Anything we can, find that's fun, man. We did. I think I grew up around a lot of competitive people, man. So it was always something that we can compete in. So whatever it was, man. But kind of gravitated towards like, we always had time where you're going to race. And I'm talking about as a little kid, for basketball, we even kind of got into basketball things, but it was always like racing or, oh man, we're going to play football all day.
Yeah.
You got something, I don't know what y'all call it up here. We call it any man. If you had an uneven number of people to play with, man, you gotta have a football. You got like 5 guys, seven guys, or whatever the case may be. Throw the ball up in the air, and whoever come down with it, or if the ball hit the ground, whoever pick it up, everybody's going after them. So any man. So those are the things that kind of made you a man, kind of toughen you up a little bit outside of all the other things that were going on in your, mentally and socially, I guess, in your life. That, growing up, it was just a norm for us, growing up, you didn't have too much of nothing growing up in the projects. And only thing you knew, you had friends to go outside and play with. But there were some days you was hungry and you didn't eat, stuff that you wanted to eat. But yeah, it was fun, man. I can't complain. So sports was, so we played sandlot football mostly, growing up, man. It was me and my mom for the most part, and she never wanted me to play, organized, because she thought that me being her only baby, man, I was gonna get hurt and all that, but but we played, and she just didn't know, man. We didn't have no pads on, man, and we were hitting harder than I mean, it wasn't no age matchup, so you'll be playing with dudes that sometimes twice your age, man, or 5 years older than you. But you out there just playing. You just want to play. And so I started, so my 9th grade year, that's when I really started organized stuff. So that was the first time I put on pads in my springtime. And we had spring games down there in high school. So, but before that, man, I started running track. So my 9th grade year, that was my first organized sport that I played, that I started doing was track. So, and doing that in Florida, man, hot. Yeah. And it was rough. So long season, but, kind of adjusted to it, and it was fun.
So you talk about a little bit about your experience in 9th grade. So you attended Evans High School. What was your experience like going there as a student and as an athlete?
Man, Evans, man, it was, I ain't trying to talk like, negative or just tough, but man, Evans was at the time, probably the worst school to go to. When you say Evans, man, everybody like, oh, you went to Evans. It was kind of like a good thing and a bad thing because, the good thing was, you had that kind of respect for as athletes, man. You can't – everybody around us, they know like, hey, if you play at Evans, man, it's going to be a good game no matter what you play, basketball, football, whatever it is. But we dominated in track. I can't say that. In Central Florida, we dominated track. There was no competition really there. But it was also, you had that negative side of things because it was the largest school, probably one of the largest schools in Orlando. And but it was the like worst social school, you could go to. Probably had, I don't know if they was grading. I think they started grading us like school wise. Probably when I was in 9th grade, they started testing us. So we were probably one of the lowest ones on there. We probably were the lowest. But it was good though, man. A lot of fights, man. I just remember a lot of fights, man. I remember even some of the guys, we call them Depp, and we had a officer on campus, man, that, his name was, I don't even know his real name. We called him Depp so much, man. So Depp, I remember him, man, just fighting with kids. I mean, he wasn't like trying to fight. These guys were fighting him, man. So he had to do what he had to do. And it was just, I won't say it was the norm, but man, it happened more than twice that I've seen, probably more than that. But it was a little rough, but man, you know what? My upbringing was good, man. My mom and, family around me, kept me straight. There was a lot of opportunity for me to go either way. But, like I said, rooted and grounded, man, in my faith, man, my mom. And I had a lot of guys that I grew up with, man, that, they grew up the same way, but we all kind of split. And we were kind of, kind of different. And they took a turn, man.
Yeah, so you talked about your dominance in track. So in your sophomore year, you actually qualified for states. Talk about that experience as a young athlete and what that felt like.
Yeah, man, you know what? As far as track and field goes, so I ran the hurdles, 110 hurdles, 300 hurdles, and I ran the 4x4. And so, if I'm not mistaken, in my freshman year, I think we qualified for the 4x4. And, I don't know if we made it out of the prelims or whatever, but I think we made it my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, if I'm not mistaken, man, I made it in all three of my events. I qualified for all three of my events, and so placed every year. So it was good. One of those things, man. I really honestly didn't like track. It was my way to kind of get in with playing football, and actually the head track coach was the offensive coordinator for football. So Coach Purcell, Maxwell Purcell. I used to try to get out of practice, man, so many times, but man, even at the meets, man, I used to try to get out of that, running that 4x4. I hated it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, towards my senior year, especially my junior and senior year, I grew to love it, man. It was something that not only was it preparing me for football, but it was something that I just started to like, because it's one of those individual / teams events or sports that it's really all you. When you get on that line, man, it's you against person that you're on next to, or in that heat with. So, but nah, track was good. It taught me a lot of things, man. Be on time, and that was just kind of like the intro to all that responsibility type stuff. So.
Yeah, so you are gaining success in track and field, but then you also start to gain some success in football. Talk about that progression as you start to develop as a football player.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, man, I started playing organized football when I was my spring. So after when we finished up track, I'll never forget, we went to state, ran state, and then the next week they had already started practice like a week prior. So we were kind of the guys that ran track and played football. They kind of came in late. So I'll never forget, man, my buddy who was also my it was me and him as hurdlers. And he played linebacker at the time, and he's been playing organized all his life. But, that was my first time strapping it. I never forget. We was in the locker room prior to that because we had to practice late because of track or whatever. And never forget, we're the only two in the locker room. We go out and we jump right into practice, man. It was varsity versus going against, I think, the ninth graders or something like that, or JV versus ninth grader. But, man, he gave me my first lick, man. And I'm talking about, dude, it was bad. That was the first time and the last time I ever fumbled. Man, he hit me so hard I ran a reverse, man. Came out, it was me, wide open. I'm like, dang, this thing, I'm about to take this to the house. This dude came out and clocked me. So, well, anyways, but that was my introduction to football. But it was fun, man. Every year, I progressively got better. I was one of those guys starting out, man. I was fast, but had stone hands or whatever, man. They used to call me stone hand my freshman year when I first got there. But real quickly, though, I kind of adapted to everything, the pads and the helmet and all that stuff. And I did pretty well, man. So,
yeah, I mean, just to go a little bit more in detail with that, you did do pretty well. Obviously, you went on to play college football. Since you were a dual athlete in high school, at what point did you make that decision to go all in with football?
Oh, yeah, man. Football was always my thing, man. Growing up, it was always football, man. I always liked football. I thought that was the most, entertaining sport. It was just, that was me. And I always wanted to play receiver. I didn't want to play any other position, which looking back at, I wish I would have played a different position like DB or something like that. But football I was always all in with football. It was just I just did track, to kind of complement football, um, so when I was all in, man, I was all in from the time I put on the pads, man, and progressively got better, and then had the opportunity to probably jumping ahead here, but probably had the opportunity to get a full scholarship at University of Akron and have fun. Those were some crazy times, but it was fun though.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about Akron. So you commit to the University of Akron. What made you commit to the University of Akron, and then what are some other schools that were interested in you as well?
You know what? It was crazy, man. I didn't have infrastructure at the house because, like I said, it was me and my mom at the time, and I think by this time my mom was married, and we had my little brother, but I didn't have anybody around me, man, to tell me the college how it all works. I was in a college readiness program at Evans. That was the only kind of thing that I knew about college, man. So we would meet like twice a month, I think, at UCF, and we'll go there, and in the summertime we'll stay there for like a week just to kind of get acclimated to. So that was it. That's all I knew, but I still didn't know the process. And so even with sports, the coaches, at the time, man, I'm not blaming them or faulting them, but they didn't really put that time and effort into, like, say, hey guys, this is what you need to do to go to the next level in sports. I didn't have it. I just remember I knew I was going to go to school. Honestly, I had I think a partial scholarship just for me being in that college readiness program for UCF. I had an opportunity to go to UCF, so I wasn't concerned that I wasn't going to college. I didn't know how the process worked. In my mind, it was just like going from 11th to 12th grade. I just already knew I was going to go to college. Didn't know how the process worked, but so I never forget. And I mean, I had all kind of schools. Like it was more like I received a bunch of letters from everybody. I just never filled out the questionnaire. Looking back at it, I was so naive. I didn't even know that you had like 5 visits. Never took advantage of it, dude. I'm talking about that's how raw I was. I just didn't know. So never took advantage of that, man. So, never – honestly, this is embarrassing to say, but never even knew about signing day. Never knew it. Coaches never even talked about it. I asked my mom, and they never knew. So I never forget when I was running track, it was like – it had to be around like February, March or something like that. There was this guy that had a I won't say a recruiting thing, but he kind of helped kids get into colleges and stuff like that. He mostly like athletes or whatever. So I used to always see him in our track meets. Just never paid attention to him. But at this time, he was at a track meet and he came to my coach, was our head coach for track and offensive coordinator for football. And he pulled him aside and like asked him like, hey, has he signed with anybody yet? And like I said, it was like late, man. It was like March or something like that. I hadn't signed with anybody, didn't know anything about it. So he said no, and he was like, man, he thought he saw online that I had signed with somebody, and I'm assuming that looking back at it, he probably thought that my partial scholarship at UCF was probably where I was going. So anyways, from there he went back, man, and put my name out there, and then whatever schools that was kind of like left over that didn't have scholarships full. They reached out to me. I think I remember Eastern Michigan and then Akron was like the 2 at the time that was like, still needed some people to fill. So I met with a guy at Eastern Michigan, didn't work out. And then I was getting this call from Akron, Coach Greg Gillum, who became my receivers coach. He reached out to my coach and was asking about me, and then my coach there, which was the track coach, offensive coordinator, he was then telling me like, hey, this is where you need to go, man. You better go. I'd never been outside of Orlando, Florida, other than we went to a trip once or twice outside of Florida, man, but never went outside of that. And so I'm looking at this like, man, I'm all nervous. So long story short, man, with that, I ended up Actually graduated. And not kidding you, man. So I graduated on a Thursday in May, I believe. Yeah, May, one day on Thursday. That Friday, I was on a plane, man, to come do my first visit. It was summertime up here. And then June McCray, man, I never forget him and his brother, Tone. They hosted me. And like I said, school was out. Still had to decide, I'm over here like, all right, let me go over and see. And then it worked out, man. I ended up signing while I was there. I knew it was going to be different, man. I knew that I wasn't used to this cold, and I was like, man, I don't know how this is going to be. Thankfully it was the summertime. I didn't really feel it until I was already on lockdown, already up here. So
yeah, so you kind of touched on it a little bit, but go a little bit more into detail. Talk about what that first year was like. Now, you're a guy coming from Orlando, Florida. The weather's completely different than it is in Northeast Ohio. So talk about that first year and that transition from an academic standpoint and then also from a football standpoint.
yeah, academic, I wasn't too concerned, because I did well. I was like honestly really not trying. I'm not saying I was the smartest kid, but I really did put too much effort into making a B average in school. I was a B average guy in high school. So I knew that the academic part wasn't going to be tough for me. It was just getting acclimated with just being away from home. And even then, man, I didn't really start missing home until about 2 months into my stay up here in Ohio, in Akron. So it was really because you had camp. You had a camp, man. We had 3 days, man. Felt like forever. So I never forget, my mom dropped me off. Mom, my stepdad, my brother, girlfriend at the time, actually, we drove up. They dropped me off. We was out there by the rubber bowl in those old practice fields out there, man. And I never forget, man, seeing them drive off, and that was it. And that's when it dawned on me. I was it. I was in it to win it then. So, but yeah, man, it was that whole transition. By the time I ended up, go through camp, you go through your first month of school. Now I start getting homesick, but it's halfway through the first semester, So I'm like, yeah, I can do it. Just back in the days, man, you had to get them those cards, man, those calling cards. I don't know if you remember those, man. You had to put some money on the card, get some minutes out, man. You go on the phone and call back home. So I feel like it was in jail. But
Yeah.
that's the only thing that kept me going, man.
Yeah, so actually, my first year, the first semester, I had a calling card, and then I think in late 2001, early 2002 is when the Sprint phones came out with the flip phone. Yeah, so I was on the tail end of the calling cards, but my first semester, I definitely used the calling card, and that was real because most people don't know, especially for the younger individuals. I mean, you only had maybe up to 2 weeks, depending on how much you talked on the phone. If you had one with 2,000 minutes, that ran out quick.
And 2,000 minutes, you were blessed to get back, boy. You had to find those. Yeah, man, I used to get them cards, man. And mom used to send up a couple of them here and there. But like I said, man, you'll call home, be like, I think towards the end, I redshirted my freshman year. So, we weren't going on the game. You just practice dummies, basically. Mm-hmm. And so it got to the point where it was kind of getting old after in November sometime. But, I knew in December was right around the corner. The season was about to be over and go home for a month or so. And so, yeah, man, it was rough. But never forget, too, I think I saw my first I did. I was 18 years old, saw snow for the first time. I think it snowed either around Thanksgiving or sometime. Got a call from a friend at the time and hey, it was at night. You looking out the window, snowing. Saw that snow for the first time, man. That was pretty interesting and memorable. So,
yeah. So you talked a little bit about your freshman year red shirt, but actually your red shirt sophomore year, you cracked the lineup. You have some starts that year. What type of preparation did you put in to get prepared to start to take on a larger role on the football team?
And honestly, man, so even before that, man, a lot of people probably don't know, man, that I was about to pack it up, man, and transfer, man, because there was some things that didn't go, that I was told, I will just leave it at that. I was told that was going to happen. And then right before it happened, so, at the end of the year, you get your little end of the year kind of exit interview from your coaches and stuff like that. So they tell you this is going to happen next year. You're going to be the starter. And so it was another friend. I ain't trying to go into too much detail. I'm going to get nobody in trouble. I know it's been all these years over outside of when this happened. But so, yeah, it was just talk to another friend. You know him, John Gill. Yeah, I talked to him, and he's like, man, what did they tell you? You know how he talk, man, New York, Queens. And then I told him, and then he was like, man, they lying to you, man. In my head, I'm giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, man. It's your coach. And so, and sure enough, I started piecing it all together. But, I felt like I didn't transfer because I didn't want to. One, there was actually a couple key things in this. One, I didn't want to feel like a quitter on the team. I felt like if I would have transferred, I was going like, man, I ain't no quitter. So, like, I would have quit on the team. And then two, there were some guys that came to me, man. I think the coaches kind of knew. I see my coach probably knew that something was going on, that I was probably thinking about it. So Matt Cherry was one of them, came to me and started kind of pulling me aside. And you could tell that he was clearly kind of pumped up to kind of come to me and talk to me, because it was just kind of awkward a little bit, like, because he even said, man, he can't be transferring. And I think Charlie actually came to me as well. And so it was one of those things, man, hindsight, maybe I should have, man. Honestly, probably things would have happened a little different. But, I think everything happened for a reason. And I probably wouldn't have felt good transferring. And so the success, man, when I finally broke through and, we go to a spread offense, I think they had converted Nick over from quarterback to receiver at this time. Then we had Michael Irv transfer from Toledo, I believe he transferred from it. So now he was in the mix. So it was four of us legit receivers out there. So so that's kind of like, I got in the mix a lot.
Yeah.
And so that kind of kept me. But it was good, man. A lot of learning curves and that whole process, man. I tell you, for people that's going to college, man, yeah, especially as a student athlete, man, there's some mental things that you got to get over, and I think it's designed to kind of break you in a sense, especially if you're on a team sport like football, like track, you got a little bit more leeway just because, if you run a certain time and you faster than this guy, what are they going to do to you? You can't stop you from going out. But when you got those team sport, man, you have to be a team player. And then, those coaches got a certain way they want to do things, and it can break a lot of people, man. And honestly, man, coming into college, man, I was all gung-ho, man. Heisman, thinking, I'm like, man, I'm coming into Akron to be the first Heisman. So that's kind of how I came. But, man, by my sophomore year, man, it was just like, man, what is going on? What is this, And then, just understanding that process. But, I made it through, man, so I'm happy.
No, and I'm glad you did, man. You had a successful career there. So you talked a little bit about Charlie Fry, and you developed a close relationship with him over those years at Akron. How did that all come about?
Yeah, man. So I remember, man, that first camp, man. We had that the freshman camp, right before actually camp started, like 3 days or so before camp start. I never forget, man. Me and this, it was a tight end at the time, man. We Matt Thompson, give him a shout out to Matt Thompson, Indiana. But we kind of hovered around him because Charlie had that. First of all, I think it was him, and I don't know if there was another quarterback really that was there that came in with us, but I think Charlie was the main quarterback that was there, and obviously it was hyping him up, and Charlie had that quarterback build, man, and I just remember, man, we just kind of after we had our little break after the first practice, something like that. Me and Matt, we kind of hovered around and say, I'm gonna be your receiver, and Matt was like, I'm gonna be your tight end, and we're gonna make this thing work. And so that's kind of how I think that's my first memory of Charlie and how I met him. And then over the years, man, you just became closer and closer, and roommates, and yeah. So it was, and we still friends to this day. Obviously, we got families now, so we don't keep in contact as often as we should. But we still talk, man. Haven't seen him in a while, but he's doing well.
No, all those things are good. I mean, especially when you're in college and just going through the day-to-day grind. It's good to have some individuals, man, that you build those relationships with. And that's the beauty of college. That's the beauty, especially of being a part of a team, especially as big as football. So Charlie was also a part of the new transition that comes about your junior year. Coach Lee Owens and the staff get let go. They get fired after the last game that year. And by spring, you got a new set of coaches that come in. Talk about that transition with transitioning from the old coaching staff to the new coaching staff.
Man, you know what? That was scary, man, honestly, because there was two different coaching styles. And, you know, it wasn't said, but, you know, I've been there long enough to kind of know how the previous coaches, Coach Owens and his, you know, team, and how they kind of operated. It was almost, this is what it felt like, whether this is true or not. It almost felt like, you know, it was like this seniority kind of thing. Like, I don't remember. I think we had a couple of true freshmen because we had to have a couple of true freshmen that came in with us. Only reason why they were true freshmen because all the upperclassmen before them got hurt, so they pulled their red shirt. You know, like 4 games left maybe in the season. And this was before you can do play 4 games. You know, way before that. So once you step on that field, man, your red shirt was gone. So there was a couple guys that were true freshmen there, but other than that, man, they did like a little seniority kind of thing. So this was going into my senior year, and the coaches got fired. So I'm like, man, I don't know what's going to happen now. You know, I felt like I was coming in as the, you know, definitely the man. I mean, I played a lot, you know, obviously, and started a lot of games prior, but going into it, it was like, you know, by design, that's how I was going to be, you know. So, but when you got the new coaches in there, and then, you know, you had a lot of underclassmen that was, you know, good. You know, these guys could play too, you know. I didn't know what the structure was. And honestly, when JD came in there, man, it was – I liked his background and his style of coaching, you know, because it wasn't like – it was totally different. You know, now it was like, okay, who's going to be pretty much the best player going to play. And that's honestly, that's what I took it from him, because he came from Pitt. You know, I know he had a good background, and I'm pretty sure that's how it was there. And, you know, every school that you kind of, especially big time schools, you see true freshmen all the time playing. And so, so I didn't know, and obviously brought in a new offense, the West Coast offense. That was something that, you know, it was – I wish I had at least 2 years with it, man, honestly, because we could have did some damage with that. And they did. You know, you guys did. You know, y'all won the MAC championship next year after we left with the same record, by the way. You know, y'all had the same record we had, and went to a bowl game, and y'all ended up winning that and won the MAC championship and all that stuff. But nah, it was it was just too different. It was scary, man, going into that my senior year, because you didn't know, and you could kind of tell, you know, JD and his staff wasn't too sure about me. You know, I that's just me. Maybe I'm biased or whatever, but I kind of got some little intel too. I think they were a little shaky on, like, am I going to be the guy or whatever? Because they honestly didn't have too much film on me to kind of like say he's going to be, you know, the guy hands down. So worked out. Obviously, had a couple injuries going into it, and then, you know, things kind of changed for me. About 4 or 5 games into it, it was, you know, writing was on the wall, man. And like I said, you know, and I'm not blaming any of the coaches, man. There were some things that, you know, I can look back and say, man, I wasn't living right, man. So so what happened to me was kind of ordained, and it was going to happen. It wasn't meant to be. Obviously, when you play any kind of sport, you want to be the best at it, and I want to take it to another level, to the next level. And it just didn't work out the way I wanted to, of course. So,
well, just to kind of follow up on that too. So you end up finishing out your senior year. You had some injuries that kind of happened, but played but didn't play the way that you wanted to. But then you get an opportunity to run track in your senior year as well. So talk about trying to balance those two sports in your last year with you trying to graduate. How did that all come about with you running track in your last year?
Man, funny story, man. I came in. I always wanted to run track or do a little something with track when I came to school. But the previous coaches, man, they didn't want you to really run. They didn't want you to play another sport, man. It was all, if you came in football, you want you to play football. So I would always tease the track coach at the time named PJ. I think PJ was the track coach at the time, and I used to always tell him, I'm coming out. Every time they'd be out, he's like, all right, come out. He's always said, come on out. But I never did because I felt like, the coaches would have, said something about it. So, but like I said, JD and his team came on, and so after spring ball and all that, man, I decided to go out, man, and they didn't say anything, and obviously, I guess you could say I made the team. Ran the hurdles in 60, and I think me and your boy Jamie Goodwin, we was on the 4x1 team, but it was good, man. It was actually, I wish I was able to do that earlier on in my career, but it kept you, in shape, and that even didn't work out the way I wanted to. But in my first track meet, I qualified for the MAC championship, so made it to a MAC championship, and in hurdles, and fell across the finish line, dude. So that was rough. But it was good. It was balancing that. It was short lived because that was like really my last time I can actually do it. Probably could have done it my senior year, but I didn't. By that time, I was trying to further my career in playing football. So, but it was fun. It was good. It was. I mean, kind of used to the schedule with playing football already, so it wasn't like it was a strain or anything. But it was just fun. Just like I said, I wish I would have done it and early on in my career.
So you end up graduating in 2005 with your degree in graphic design. How did it feel to walk across the stage?
Man, it was good, man. That was the first time, man. All my years I had a red shirt, so I was there 5 years. So all my years of playing, man, that was honestly my first time. My dad, man, was there. Mom was there, and some of my family members, was there. My aunts, they all came up together, and it was good, man. It was a proud moment, man. One of those things that out of my immediate family, I got a huge family. It was 11 siblings on my mom's side. It was 10 on my dad's side. So on my mom's side, obviously I grew up more with my mom, her side. So at the time, I was most likely the first one to graduate college. I had some cousin after me that actually graduated too after I did. So I was probably the first one, and so it felt good. You had my aunts that came up, and those riders, man. Some of them, a couple of them came that I didn't realize they were coming, but they came, man. That was a surreal moment, man, and a happy day. Actually, I didn't think I was gonna. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to graduate just because of the criteria I thought that I had to do with my major at the time. I thought I had to do some certain things before I could graduate. So it was kind of last minute, too, that I found out I was going to graduate in May. So, but it was fun, man.
So you moved back to Orlando. Talk about that transition. You were in Akron for 5 years, playing football, going to school. You were successful at it. You graduated. Then you go back to Orlando. What was that transition like for you?
It was interesting, man. It was like I said, me and Charlie were roommates. Charlie had just got drafted by the Browns, and I remember, man, he actually didn't want me to go back, but I was like, man, let me just go ahead, and I'm trying to do this on my own now, man. Even my transition out of college, man, I didn't know. I was still kind of naive to the whole process of agents and all that stuff, man. I was just, if you look at my story, man, it wasn't even meant for me to really to go to the next level like I wanted to. It'd have been a long hurdle, but anyways, so I ended up going home And at the time, me and my stepdad, we didn't see eye to eye. He didn't know the process on how that stuff worked. I think he thought that, you graduate because he never went to college. And you graduate college, man, you're supposed to be grown, man, and you're supposed to be out of the house and all this. So I come back, and it was just like, I just felt like this tension, like hey, when you leave. So I went home, and I was still trying to do my workouts, but man, at the same time, I needed some money. So I was doing some freelancing on the side, man, graphic design, freelancing, and actually kind of partnered up with my buddy's best friend, really, Monte Miles, Julius Miles. I'm giving him a shout out. His mom, and she was like an independent marketing person, and kind of partnered up with her and just making some money on the side, man, doing some hustling there while all at the same time still working out. And honestly, funny story, man. So probably jumping the gun again, but while I was working with her, man, she knew that I was still kind of missing the sport and football. And by this time, it's probably like 5 or 6 months, or maybe even a little longer. So she actually reached out to her. I think it was a cousin at the time that lived in Louisville, Kentucky. And she was like, man, I got a cousin that live out in Louisville, and he connected with some team out there. And it was just so amazing how she did this, man, because one, like I said, I didn't really have an agent like that. And she didn't even know really about sports at all. She saw her son and me play football in high school, but man, she called this guy up, got a number to the facility at Louisville, got in contact with the coach at the time, like the offensive coordinator named Coach Shack, I think. And man, this was like the most amazing thing that I've seen. Like, cold call, boom, she's on the phone talking to this dude and just selling me, man. Like, she never seen me play since high school, never came to a game, but man, she was like, this is who he is. This is the kind of person he is. I'm telling you, he's going to come there and do this. I'm like, I'm listening to it. And we're in the car. We're driving in the car at the same time while she's doing all this. Like, man, by the time she hung up that phone, man, I was offered to come to camp, man. And it just so happened, man, my roommate at the time, him, Wayne LaFall was already going there, and it was just so ironic, man. Just so happened that he was going at the same time, man, and so we met up there, and it was fun, man. It was Arena 2, one of those things where I was just trying to get into it. One of those, also another thing that I always looked at like, man, I'm gonna play this. I'm really gonna play Arena, period. I don't care if 1 or 2, whatever it was, but never thought I'd be playing that. And then you get to a point where you just like, man, I got to do something. I want to play. So. And just going into that, that was an interesting experience, man. This was one of the time where you had to play both ways. So long story short, but I was there for about 2 months, went through camp, and I did well at receiver part. I wasn't concerned about that. I knew I was going to kill it there. It was just that DB. I was like, man, if I could have. And I was so technical, man. So I was doing stuff so technical, man. Just instead of going out there and playing like I did in Sandlot days, man. It'd have been good, but. So it didn't work out, man. They were trying to send me down to Georgia to another team now, and I'm like, nope, I'm done. I gave myself mentally a year. I was like, man, I'm just going to do this a year. I ain't going to be one of those guys that coming back to camp or going back to pro day and 2 and 3 years later. I'm like, nope, I'm giving myself a year, man. I got to go to work, get some money. So that's what happened.
So you end up spending months in Orlando, and then you get a call out of nowhere to go play Arena 2 football for a Louisville team. You experience that for a few months, and then you get released. And so here's your mindset at this point with just life, the workforce, and football.
Shoot, at this time, man, I'm in survival mode, man, and living that life, that Arena 2 life, man. It was rough. It was rougher than staying home at the house. I was like, man, we don't got no furniture. They gave us an apartment, but you don't got no furniture. Sleeping on the floor. Me and Wayne, we in this 2-bedroom apartment, man. Decent apartment, but we didn't have no furniture. Man, you get a check for a couple dollars, seemed like, and you go to the dollar store and buy food. So when that happened, man, they were talking about trying to send me down to Georgia, man. I'm like, no, do I want to live this life? I'm like, man, I can go get a job right now somewhere. Never forget, man. I end up interviewing at I think it was Abercrombie& Fitch or something up there in Louisville, man. The mall was like right next door to the apartment complex, and so they hired me, man. I interviewed, they hired me right there, pretty much on the spot as a manager. And that same day, though, I went home and I started making phone calls back up in Ohio and connected with a guy at a Lexus dealership. And long story short with that, man, got that job and went back the next day, called the lady that kind of hired me and just told her what's going on. And so everything was good. So then that's what brought me back to Ohio. So I was back and I was working, man. I had to make some money, man, some real money at the time.
Yeah, so talk about that experience working at the Lexus dealership. So you go from playing football in Arena 2 to right into sales. Talk about that transition.
Man, you know I was a smooth talker, man, all my life. No, man, it was different. Actually, I got hired on as a different kind of a role. I wasn't even in the sales right away. They brought me in as a new position, what they call a delivery coordinator. So when you buy your car, I kind of went over the car with you and told you everything about the car. And so I had to learn the cars pretty quick, man, because, I got there and then, never his first job out of college. And so at the same time, I'm actually commuting from Cleveland because now, I'm actually staying with Charlie now. And we he's playing and I'm working and doing my thing. And so then the next year I went into the sales side of things and they just told me, hey, you're on the floor February 1st. I think this was in 2007. And didn't have a lick of experience how to sell. I sold a shoe store, man, like Al Bundy. Back when I was 17, man, your boy worked at a shoe store, man, just for feet. Never forget. Went out of business, but that's the only kind of thing I was selling, man. Other than that, man, selling these $50,000+ cars, man. But so I managed, man. It wasn't for me, I can tell you that, man, because some of the shady stuff that you did see some of that stuff is true, man. You probably hear some of those guys, man, talk about like, oh, I don't want to go to any dealership. You get these kind of shady dudes, but there was a couple dudes in there, man, that when you kind of work your way up to the Lexus side of things, man, and to the foreign cars, and these guys been in the business 20+ years, man, selling cars. I'm like, this isn't for me. So I kind of wised up when I got engaged, man, when I was like probably my fourth year into it. And I was like, yeah, I got to get out of here. And so that's when I really started getting serious about like making money and trying to put some stuff up. So yeah, and that's what brought me over to my next gig.
So you end up getting an opportunity to work at Alt Care. You spent a few years at the Lexus dealership, and then you transitioned into working at Alt Care in the marketing department. Talk about that transition and talk about what that experience was all about.
Yeah, man. Didn't know anything about Alt Care. It was a health insurance company, local, down in the Canton area, and kind of got. That was one of the things where, like I said, I was engaged and I knew I was trying to get out of the car business and kind of get into something a little more stable. So just so happens, man, I was helping another coworker out, and the person that he sold a car for was the CEO of Alt Care. And so long story short with that, we kind of hit it off and, we talked a little bit, and then I reached out to him after – probably about a week or whatever. And it was, it was one of those things where he kind of told me to reach out to him. And long story short with that, man, had that opportunity to go in for an interview, ended up getting it. And so I started making my transition over to the Lexus side of things. I mean, to Alt Care in the health insurance world. Wasn't intending to take the insurance, get my license for insurance, but I had to get my license. I wasn't going to sell, but they wanted me to get my license, boy. I ain't going to tell you how many times I flunked that test, boy. Flunked it a couple times, man. But I'm licensed to this day. Actually, this is my year to renew them. So I never let it lapse, but I'm happy I did that. And I was there for 6.5 years, man.
So during that time that you were at Alt Care for those 6.5 years, a lot of things happened in your personal life. You got married, you became a father. Talk about that work-life balance, becoming a father, and then trying to balance your career along with being married as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing like, when you become a father, man. You can't even, I can't even put that in words, man. Um, Not to discredit, getting married, man. That's a big step in itself. You get married and, um, you find somebody that, you put your trust and faith and love into. And then, yeah, 2 years later, man, we said we're going to, um, have a baby. And there was actually some things that, happened. We lost one prior to having my daughter. So that was tough, just going through that. They kind of bring you closer. And so I had my daughter, man, and things were good. It's just that responsibility part of it kind of escalate and heighten, because you got another you around the house that you're responsible for. So, and I was all for it, man. I was ready to have a baby, man. I was ready. I should say for my wife to have a baby, so we were ready. Um, and so 2 years later, man, my son came along. So that was even, and it's funny because going back, right when my wife was pregnant, man, we were going to look at the sex of the baby. I'm already like, man, oh, this is a boy. Already out the gate, I already know. So you don't got to tell me. Sure enough, she said some technical term like labias. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but it's a boy. But so that's what they saw on the screen there. So I did get the boy the first go around, which I wanted the boy, but I'm happy it happened this way. My daughter was first, because God, if this boy of mine was first, boy, God help my daughter. But my daughter is such a big help with my son, who's 3 now and she's 5. So then we decided to make that move down and get closer to my wife's family here in Columbus. So
Yeah, so you spent 10 plus years in Akron, Ohio, and then your wife gets a job opportunity to transition down to Columbus. What was that whole transition like? At this point, you're a father of 2. You're settled in your career. Your wife is settled in her career. You have a home, and then you decide to transition down to Columbus, Ohio. Talk about that transition.
And you know what? When we were dating, man, I used to come down here, and that was my first kind of real experience with Columbus, man. I was kind of remind me of a little bit of Orlando, that it always seemed like it had something to do. And it was like, had that newer look and not that industrial kind of look. So I was like, man, I would like to get down here. So I was actually trying to get down here before we got married, but it just didn't work out. So, so the transition, man, it was good. But my wife, like you said, she had a job first, and I didn't have a job. I didn't find a job, man, for like 3 months, man. I was back at the house in Akron, and like coming down here a couple times a week, go to work, get off work, and go straight down to Columbus, man, and then turn around and come straight back. Trying to find jobs, trying to interviewing, and then I was trying to sell a house at the same time, and it was rough, man. That was probably one of the roughest times being away from my wife and my kids. It man, that just thinking about it now, man, it was tough, man. Especially you go up there and you see your kid, and you got to turn around and leave, man, and go back home. And man, I remember that last time it happened. I was like, man, I prayed, man. I said, God, man, this got to be my last time, because my son, by this time, he came to the door and kind of like crying and seeing me go. And it was like one of those things we got to say goodbye. And I was like, I can't do this. So it was 2 hour drive, man. I didn't cry, man, but it was one of those things I can't do this anymore. And then sure enough, man, like that next week, or so, whatever it was, 2 weeks or so, had an interview. Got the job, and then honestly, so I think I accepted the job on Friday, and then that Saturday, just so happened, man, we accepted an offer on our house. So it worked out. It was God's timing, man, and worked out just how it should have, and it was a smooth transition, man. And so yeah, so I'm down here in Columbus now.
Well, no, it's good. I'm glad that all worked out. So you talk about God. You have been a Christian for many years now. Now, at
Yeah.
what point did you decide to make that decision to make that a focal point in your life?
Yeah, man. You know what? Grew up in the church, man. All I knew was church and growing up. But I can say though, man, it was one of those things where, um, it was one of those things when I went to college, man. I was away from my mom, away from, that covering, and man, you just just got wide open, man. It just kind of um, was up here in college, man, and started seeing some things that, and doing some things. Obviously I knew what was out there, but now that you're on your own, kind of like your own man, 18 years old, and things that you was probably like sheltered from and didn't see, now you're getting exposed to it, and now you with your boys, play football with, went to camp with it. I never forget, but that freshman camp, or that first camp was over, man. It was, you were like roaches, dude. We just went. They had this, the first day, I forget what they called it, but it was like a big campus party, man. Everybody was kind of moving in, and that's kind of like what I remember. But you know what? It didn't. It lasted about like 3 years, I would say, and then after that, I got used to it, and I was like, I was still kind of, I settled in probably after my second year, really kind of knew what to expect and what was going on. But that's when I would say from my freshman year to my really going to my senior year, where it was like I kind of like was kind of far away from it for a while. So it wasn't until I graduated and moved back up to Ohio when I was like, man, I'm missing something, And so when I moved back, I got connected with a church up, and at the time it was in Oberlin. Pastor James and Kemasha Knight, giving them a shout out, House of Healing up there. So they're doing their thing up in Elyria. So check them out. So I got connected with them, and man, that was, he was young. I think Pastor Knight is probably like a couple of years, probably 2 years older than me. But man, just the wisdom that he had, man, it was just one of those things where I just kind of like, I grew up in it, so I knew what to look for in a church. And when I got there, it was just like, yep, this is it. Small church, but growing, and but it was a lot of things that they were doing. So from that's when I was like really in. I was back, and I didn't turn back since, man. But yeah, it's been a good journey here.
So in your life, like, how are you able to balance your faith, your family, and your career?
You know what? Just gotta stay focused, man. If you keep your faith first as the main focal point, and I think everything else kind of fall in line. And that's really it, man. When things start going, for me, I'm only speaking for me, and I can't speak for everybody or every Christian either. When things start going south or not going right, then I got to refocus. Like, okay, where am I with my faith, and what have I been doing or not doing? And so once when I get back into doing that, everything start lining back up. So that's been for me over the years, and I've been tested, proven. So it's like, yep, I see something going on in my life that's not going right, I should say, and I know I'm doing something wrong. I can't blame anybody else. It's me. It's like, what is going on, or what's about to happen, or what is about to open up for me. Usually when something about to open up for me, that's a good thing. The positive thing is like all hell break loose right beforehand, and it seems like it's trying to get you to do something that's outside of your character, to get you to kind of like fall. But yeah, balancing that, man, and family. That I've always been a family man. I always wanted a family. So that's something that, like I said, once my faith is in line, man, everything else kind of fall in line. So,
Yeah, just to go a little bit more into your faith, most people don't know, but you also play the drums,
yeah.
church choir. So you're also serving in the church.
Yep.
How did you develop a passion for music?
Man, like I said, man, growing up in the church, man, I think my mom said, I started playing drums when I was 3 years old. So not only when I was growing up at church, man, I was, I grew up playing drums for church, and so I've been drumming since I was a kid. And like I said, from that time I went to college to actually even honestly since I moved down here to Columbus, where and that's only been I've been in Columbus now probably 3 years now, going on 3 years, and that's when I started back playing again. So it was a long hiatus before I started playing. So I started playing with the church that we are at now, Ethos Church. Pastor Jordan Smucker, pastors, shout out to them, and Courtney. Sorry, I didn't give her a shout out. Pastoress over there. But yeah, so I've been playing with them and on the rotation. So it's just been good, man. I still feel like I'm rusty, man. I haven't, played in so long, consistently so long. But check us out. I think we just recorded today actually. So probably won't show until next week. So you'll see me playing. Wasn't my best showing, but hey, at least you can kind of get a glimpse of what I do.
Yeah, well, I'll have to check that out at some point. We're going to transition into the last part of the show, which is called Top 5. So this is the segment where I'm going to give you some subject areas, and you give me your top 5.
Here we go.
All right, so we're going to start off with the first one. So you're a guy that played football, played all the way in college and was successful and even played after. Give me your top 5 wide receivers of all time.
Oh, man. So I'm just going to start, and this is no particular order. Right. But just going back to my college days, man, he played in the NFL, so I can give him a shout out. But I liked him more in college. But Peter Ward,
legend.
Yeah, Peter Ward. He was a college legend. He didn't do so well in the NFL, but he did. He made it, and he was still successful. But Jerry Rice, of course. T.O. Was that 3? Mm-hmm. Chad Ochocinco. Got to give him a shout out. Man, there's so many. You got Randy Moss and Chris Carter. That's like 6, but so I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah, no, those are all good, big time wide receivers, and most of those wide receivers gonna fall somewhere in the top 10 of all time on somebody's list. So moving to the next question, give me your top 5 NBA players of all time.
Woo. Sure, I caught the tail end of Magic Johnson. Growing up in the 90s, caught the tail end of him. You got to, I'm just going to give you 4 because you already know who number 1 is. Jordan, number 1. So I'm just going to give you 4 more. You got to give Penny Hardaway, coming from Orlando. You got to give Shaq, Penny. So what's that, 3?
That's 4. So you got Magic, you got MJ, you got Penny, you got Shaq.
Yeah, and you got to put Kobe up there, man. Kobe ain't nothing but Jordan, Yeah. He imitated him so much. So, yeah, Kobe, hands down.
Nah, I agree with that. Kobe, big-time basketball player, one of the greatest we ever seen. May he rest in peace. Obviously, that was tragic what happened to him a few months back. But those are a good group of 5 guys that you listed for your top 5 NBA players. Moving to the next question is give me the top 5 places you ever visited or vacationed. And it can be anywhere.
And, your boy grew up kind of sheltered, man. We didn't go anywhere growing up. But we actually took a visit up here in Ohio, believe it or not, man. So I even put that down. We took a little, I think it was a church visit, actually.
All right.
My pastor at the time. And we came here to Ohio, Cabo, Mexico. This is my hometown, but, you got to throw Disney in there, man. I went to Scottsdale, Arizona. That was one. And, where else, man? I don't think I have anywhere else that I've been and I can really say, we took plenty of trips in football that, we can say my senior, I'll just throw this out there. So my senior went to Penn State, so.
Happy Valley.
Yeah, we'll put that.
All right. And then for the last question, give me your top 5 movies of all time.
Oh man, so let's no particular order. We're gonna say Friday. Um, geez, Friday. Got so many movies. I'm a big Martin fan. I think Blue Streak. that's one. Uh, man, you know what? I'm gonna say it just because I'm on your show. One of my favorite shows, believe it or not, The Devil Wears Prada, man. That's a show, man. I'm a movie, man, that to me, I look at it, man, not as a chick flick, but it's got so many like life lessons in there about just life, man, you know, about work and just so that I'm gonna throw that out there. So that's three. And then Shawshank Redemption, I'm gonna put that out there. What's that, four? That's
Yep.
another movie that I say that got some like life lessons things in it. And Rocky, though, you gotta throw Rocky in there. The
Which
whole
one now?
series.
Which one? The whole series? Okay.
All of them, man. You gotta Apollo Creed, but you know, the Russian man was the one that was probably gonna be the best one.
Yeah.
I think that's five, right? That's
Yeah,
five.
that's five. Yep, yep. No, it's five. Nah, well, Mo, we're at the end of the show. I appreciate you coming on. You know, the purpose of this show, of your journey, is for you to talk about your journey, talk about the ups, the downs, and just to give you a platform to tell your story. So when people see it, they can see how a path or how one's life can be, you know, through the good times and the bad, and to see that you can always overcome those hurdles that may come up. And then also just to understand the grind and the work that it takes to get to where you are today, to whether it's managing a family, whether it's trying to find the right job or the right career, or if it's to make it in sports. And so the grind and the hours and hours of training, or the hours and hours of just thinking and studying and just being prepared at all times. And I think one of the things I noticed about your journey is that you were always prepared when an opportunity came, you know, whether it was you continuing to keep training in Orlando when you got that call from the Arena 2 team, when it was you get an opportunity to run track, you was just always prepared. You know, in your first track meet, you end up placing it and making it to MAC, to the conference. So all those moments in your life, man, showed preparation, that you was always ready to step up when the challenge came. So I appreciate you. Also, the goal for me when individuals come on the show is to give them their crown while they're alive, you know. So I salute the work that you've done. You haven't even hit your prime yet. You still in the mix to continue to keep getting better, not only just as a man working in their career, but also as a father and as a husband, and all the things that you're doing in the church, man. So I salute you and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, man. This was good, man. I think you're doing a good job here, man. I think you're gonna go places with this. So I'm happy to be one of the first top 10, I guess, of your interview process. So, man, best to you. And if you need me, man, call me. You know me.
For sure. Man, well, thanks for coming on the show. Much appreciated. Thank you for tuning into your journey. Be safe and God bless.
Peace.